All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm your host, Steph.
And I'm Liz.
And we are so excited to just be sharing today.
Yeah,
and be back really and kind of get in the groove of everything. Yeah, how are you doing? It's been a while.
Doing good.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't recorded. I mean, we've recorded with Sam, but it's been a little while since we recorded just us. Just us, yeah, because the last time we recorded was with your mom, with Sam. So it feels good to kind of just be back just together.
A little combo.
Talk a little bit. Yeah. I feel like we haven't, because I guess we normally record on Sunday, so we're recording this on Wednesday. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy New Year. Wow.
And Merry Christmas. I don't know if we said that in the last one, but Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. We are now in 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a little upset that there are no flying cars. I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay.
If you want to know what my disappointment for 2020 is, I mean, we're starting the year off with a bang already. With disappointment is no flying cars.
I feel good about it. There not being flying cars. I feel like that's a hazard and it's dangerous.
I had a whole talk with my preschool students and they had no idea what I was talking about. But I had a whole talk with them saying that by the time they drive, they're not going to need to know how to drive. They're just going to need to know how to fly.
This is the truth.
And they were
just how to sit in a car properly.
They were just looking at me like with blank faces. And I was like, has anyone ever seen the Jetsons? They're like, we don't like that. I'm like, do you even know what that is?
They definitely don't know what you're talking about.
No, I just don't think they like the word Jetsons. It's just, but it's fine.
Yeah.
That's my little rant on.
That was cute.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited because we are kind of going to do like a little recap of 2019, what we learned.
Yep.
What we kind of been through in 2019, just separately and I guess together.
Yeah. I feel like we experience a lot of the same things.
Yeah. And what we look forward to in 2020.
I'm excited.
So do you want to kind of start us off or do you want me to start us off?
Sure. I'll start us off.
All right, go ahead.
So I kind of posted about this on Instagram a little bit earlier today. And I was just saying like how, like what a difference a year can make. And you remember last year, it was 2018 into 2019. And we were both so sad. Mm-hmm. We were crying. I remember we both like, once it was like, Happy New Year. And everyone's like, yes. We just looked at each other and we're like, we just both equally started crying because we were so happy that the year was over, that 2018 was just done. Right. And then we could just move forward. And I feel like both of us collectively were like very expectant, but very terrified of what 2019 would bring. And so, this year, like this new year was so different. Right. Like, it's crazy what a year can do just to one person and a friendship. And just like now we have friends. Right. Whereas last year it was like we were just home and it was just like a little sad.
Yeah, very isolating.
Sad. Yeah, it was a lot of sad and like, I don't know, it was just so different. Right. This one was so like, wow, like I'm excited, like I have this vision for 2020, like so like this year I have such a vision for what I want to do, and like I have a feeling that it's gonna be a good year. I just know.
Well, share your vision. Because I want to know, and I think everyone else wants to know. Okay. And I just want to like elaborate a little bit on it, because I think like in 2019 you had a vision of how you wanted things to go.
This is true.
Like, did you complete the goals that you wanted to complete in 2019? Like, what is it that you're looking forward to in 2020 that's different from 2019?
Well, okay, so I feel like 2019 I sat out and did every single thing that I wanted to do, that I said like I was gonna do. Like I wanted to be out of my comfort zone and do things that I might not do ever. Right. Which was funny because one of the challenges that I gave myself was just writing a song, just to write a song. Right. No purpose behind it, just to write it. And like I have a whole EP written, probably an album if we are being honest here, of songs that I wrote in 2019 that just like came out of me. Yeah. So that was something that was cool that I wasn't really expecting to happen. I really wanted to just hone in on my emotional health and my mental health. and really work on myself and my physical health.
Right.
Because I was going to the gym and really just paying attention to like where I was mentally. And I was like, no, I'm gonna get better.
Right.
With my thinking habits and, you know, breaking down all these like bad habits of thinking and eating and just all of that. And then like my relationship with Jesus like completely radically shifted, and I really wanted to work on that as well. And now it's like I feel like this is the first time in my life where I set out for goals and like I actually like accomplished them exceedingly greater than what I expected.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. How about you? What were your goals in 2019?
Well, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know if I set goals for 2019.
I don't think
I don't think I did. I think I set like, this is what I would like to do, but it wasn't necessarily a goal of mine. It was just like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's fine. And that was to write one chapter of a book, because I want to write a book. And I was like, you know what, like we'll see. Like we'll see if it'll come out. Because I love to write, but it's definitely, you don't want to force it. Right. It's definitely something that like I have to be inspired, or I have to be in that headspace. I have to have the time for it. So, I mean, I maybe wrote like a few sentences, but I definitely didn't write like a chapter of the book, which I wanted it to be on like the experience that I've had like with ministry, my experiences with people, and just kind of just a book of like what I've learned through walking through the things that I've walked through. Yeah. Because, and I guess we'll share it on one of the podcasts, is just kind of the things that I've encountered in my life, and just the different, I guess, trials that I've walked through, the fire that I've walked through, and what I've learned by people that were in my life in those seasons, because I've had very seasonal people in my life, and they've all taught me something, and what I took away from those people. So I kind of wanted the book to be like a journey through those moments, those very significant moments in my life. So I kind of wrote like a few sentences, but it wasn't necessarily like a goal. You know what I mean? I knew that there were some things that I wanted to unlearn.
Yes, a lot of unlearning in 2019.
2019, I think for me personally was a space or a year where I really took the time to reevaluate who I was as a person, my character, my thinking, my view on the world and on people. And I kind of took the time to see how I've changed from when I was before I went to Valley Forge. Yeah. Like the way that I thought and the way that I treated people compared to my years at Valley Forge and then my years after.
Valley Forge is the college you went to.
Valley Forge is the college I went to, yeah. So 2019 was a lot of reevaluating how I grew emotionally, where I was at mentally, where I was at kind of in when it came to healing from very past traumas. Right. And when it came to words that, like, whether it was prophetic words or meetings that I've had, just really taking the time to reevaluate everything up until that point. Yeah. So I really took the time to kind of just be with myself. I went to therapy, which was like a really big help. Like, I'm so pro therapy, pro counseling. And I really worked through a lot of issues that developed throughout the years that weren't necessarily like my fault or anyone's fault. It just, life has been like my biggest teacher. Whether good or bad, life has taught me either to be more guarded or has taught me to be more on the fence on a lot of things. Whereas prior to a lot of events that have happened in my life, I was just so easygoing. Yeah, you were. I was a very yes kind of person. I allowed a lot of people into my life. And then circumstances happened and I became more closed off. Right. And so there was a lot of me learning to open myself up to the world again. And when I say the world, I don't mean like sinful things. I mean more so like people. Yep. Trusting again, learning to love again, learning to be loved. Because loving was easy, but being loved was something that made me really uncomfortable.
Mm.
So learning those things and just learning myself, like learning like it's okay for me to think this way or it's not okay for me to think this way, because I had a lot of people telling me this is who you're supposed to be, right? Like I had a lot of people telling me this is the mold that you need to fit, whether it was because I was a pastor and this is what people look for in pastors, or if it was because I came from a place where people didn't really agree with that pastor, so I had to try to not be who that person was.
Right.
So I was trying to fit that mold or whatever it was always me trying to fit a mold of like a version where people accepted me.
Right.
But it wasn't necessarily Steph. And I had to really work through that in 2019. Like, who is Stephanie?
Yeah.
Not a version of Stephanie, and not because I'm a pastor and a minister and this is the image I have to uphold, but I'm a daughter. And what does it look like, Stephanie as a daughter, and becoming comfortable with myself. So there wasn't necessarily goals that I set. It was just more so, okay, let me learn how to be a 26-year-old woman who loves the Lord, is called into ministry, but also is a daughter.
Yeah.
Right. Like it wasn't like my life was defined by my ministry.
Yeah.
And how well I ministered. And who accepted my ministry, as opposed to I'm a daughter of the King. I'm loved by the Father. I am pursued by the Father.
Yeah.
I think I wrote like on Facebook, like when I ended 2019, like I'm grateful for like the good and the bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the good meetings, the bad meetings that I've had, the many lessons that I've learned, the good circumstances, the bad circumstances, just really thankful for it, because it allowed me in 2019 to really hone in on my heart, on my mind, focus in on my mental health, really study the word, like really get down to what does the Bible say.
Right.
I've learned like apologetics and hermeneutics and really like honing in on what is proper theology, because I believe that I was the type of person that whatever the person above me's theology is, that's the right theology, but I never really learned it for myself.
Yeah.
So I really took the time in 2019 to learn proper theology.
And that's okay to do. Paul the Apostle says to do that.
Yeah, like the Bereans, they really, whenever Paul the Apostle taught something, they were called the Bereans because they would go back and like make sure, kind of like test what he was saying.
And it's not disrespectful to do that. You
do
have to, because we're all human.
Right, yeah. So like I learned to really be like, okay, what does the Bible say?
Right.
On everything. On decisions in my life, on what people were telling me as far as advice goes, on how people even viewed the world, and like learning it not just so that I could be like, oh, you're wrong, you're not doing things according to the Bible, but so that I can align my life and my direction according to what the Word of God says.
Yeah.
Because for so long I did it according to what my pastor said, which is good, because
he's your leader.
That's my leader. That's my father. That's my shepherd, or my mom and my dad, like my spiritual parents. So we trust in that. I'm not saying not to trust in that, but I think that having a balance of, okay, I trust in what you say, but I also know my theology. I've learned my word. I've learned what the Bible has to say in context, culturally, theologically. Like I've learned these things that way that I can better sharpen myself and better sharpen others around me. So I really learned that in 2019.
I think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I think I really learned how like restoring relationships, like how you were talking about, just like unlearning and unlearning how to treat people and inviting new people into your life and stuff like that. I feel like I wanted to restore the relationships that I had with my family specifically, and just like really work on our relationship, like, and that it really did happen. Like I was just really humbled through it all. Like I just wanted to be Jesus for everybody in a healthy way. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And I think like one of the things that I've appreciated, like watching you grow in 2019, is watching you say things like, okay, like like, for example, you took the scripture, like, he who's been forgiven forgives much, right? He who has been forgiven much forgives much. And like, I've seen you be like, no, like, and I've seen you wrestle with that.
Yeah.
Like, with that truth all throughout 2019, and towards the ending, I've seen it become alive in your life where you're like, you know what, like, you've hurt me bad. And I had to work through a lot and it was hard, but I love you and I forgive you and we move on.
Yeah. And not holding grudges was like, I don't know. I feel like I learned that the tail end of 2019 of like the genuine power of forgiveness.
But I've seen you wrestle with it all throughout 2019.
All year,
Like, I've seen you wrestle with this whole concept of forgiveness and what that looks like, and I've seen it come to alive in you towards the ending of 2019, like, put into action.
The fruit of it.
Yeah. So that was like really cool to see. In 2019, we opened a church.
This is a truth. I'm surprised you're talking about it.
No, we opened it because it's part of my story, it's part of my journey. Like, I didn't plan on it. Like, it wasn't, again, like, going into 2019, I wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna start a church, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Going into 2019, I was like, okay, like, I'm just gonna start doing stuff. Like, I'm not gonna put limits to myself. I'm gonna go out there and I'm just gonna try different things.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, it was, and it wasn't like a bucket list. Like, I wasn't like, okay, cross that off my list. Right. It was just more so, okay, God, like, where do you want me? What do you want me to do? And I think that I prayed and I was like, okay, Lord, I think we were coming back from another church service, and I looked at you and I was like, I'm gonna try it. Like, I'm just gonna trust God, and like, I'm just gonna step out in faith, and I'm just gonna try this out and see what happens. And that was big for me. Like, 2019 was very much filled with faith. Like, stepping out in faith on all ends. So like, that's what I did. I stepped out in faith and I started a church. Like, we did it like legally. We did the paperwork. We got it legalized. We opened our doors. We did it at the house, and we still do it on Wednesday nights. Bethesda's Bible studies on Wednesday nights, and people's lives were genuinely touched and changed. We had a lot of young adults come in who were just looking for direction or looking for healing. We had a lot of people who were hurt by the church come in and like really like find God and healing in that season. So it was cool to see like God using, I guess, our family again. And I mean, there was a lot of hardship that came with Bethesda. There was a lot of things that came up, but I also was restored.
It got you up.
It got me up. Yeah. After what happened in 2018, I was really hurt by the church, and I was like, I'll never do ministry again. Like, I never wanted to step foot into a pastoral position again. I never wanted to work with young adults again. I never wanted to work with youth again because of what happened and because of how hurt I was. And so like, I literally was like, no, like, I want nothing to do with the church. I'll maybe go and I'll keep it moving. And I had no direction for my life. So going into 2019, like I said, I had no direction. But then like, I remember the Lord saying to me like, no, you're called into ministry, and you're called to millennials, and you're called to preach my word and teach my word. And I was like, okay, Lord, like, I trust you and we'll do this thing. And so came Bethesda, and it was a great adventure. We met a lot of really amazing people. Shout out Farzad helping us find a building. He was awesome. Like, it was like a godsend. And like, we all knew like, okay, like, even if this is a seasonal moment, there's a purpose for it.
There was,
and it got me up, it got me ministering again, and it got me really trusting God again in such a different way. And it also brought up a lot of things in my heart as far as my view towards ministry that wasn't healthy. And it corrected a lot of that thinking, a lot of those practices that I thought was healthy, but it turned out it wasn't. It got me connected with mentors, people that have really prayed for me my entire life, have been a really big part of my life since I was a kid. It got me reconnected and restored with those relationships again. So it was good. It was a good adventure, because there was a lot of restoration in it. There was a lot of getting up, and there was a lot of undoing in the midst of it. And then when we decided, like, okay, it's going to take a different route. We're going to trust God with it taking a different route. We're just going to do Bible studies on Wednesdays, and we're going to build Bethesda to be something that is bigger than just a church.
Right.
And so that's kind of like where Bethesda is for a lot of people who know about Bethesda and are like, okay, what happened? It's taken just like a different journey, like a different direction.
It's actually really cool to see.
Yeah. And we're kind of building it in the background, which is like what we're learning, like we're relearning, right?
Yeah.
How to do things. And like God's like, it's bigger than what you thought it would be.
And it's not a failure. Like I feel like a lot of people be like, you failed.
No.
It's just like it evolved. And I know people are afraid of that word, but it's true.
It did,
like it grew into something else.
It grew into something bigger than what we had planned for it. And we were like, oh, we can't sustain it in the McEwen home.
No.
So we were like, okay, we really need to rethink this.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like, it's really cool to see it like really like pushing forward, which is why I'm so thankful for the church that we're in now, because the church that we're in now is what's helping birth Bethesda.
Yep.
It's like really cool how God like was like, okay, you now are going to go get plugged into this church, and this church is now going to come alongside you into Bethesda. Like, it's just really cool.
Yeah.
Like seeing God really orchestrate the way my future is going. And that's what 2019 was just seeing God move pieces around so that I can get plugged into where we're at now.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I love our church. That's another thing that I wanted to, going into 2019, I didn't really know what to expect church-wise. I don't think I was really thinking about that. I think I was just thinking about my walk with Jesus and like how I was doing personally. I wasn't thinking about getting plugged in and like community yet.
Right.
But towards the middle of it, when we started, you started Bethesda, I was really craving community, which is something that's very rare for me. But I think it was good for me to not have community for the period of time that I did, because it taught me the importance and genuine importance of community. It's different for someone to tell you what you need and for you to know what you need.
Right. That's
and for you to like fully understand like, oh, I get why I need that.
Yeah.
And I feel like all my life people have been talking about, oh, get plugged into community, serve, do this, do that. And I was like, I don't understand why it doesn't do anything for me, but okay, whatever.
Right.
And then when I didn't have it, and I think it had to do with maturity. I just really wanted to grow and become a better person every day.
Yeah.
That I realized like community isn't just about me hanging out with people and friends. It's about me adding something to them and them adding something to me.
Yeah.
And that's like the true importance. And that's why you need community.
Yeah.
Because you're a body. You're a part of the body. And without you, the body can't function properly. And without them, my body can't function properly.
Right.
So that was something that was really cool to see, because I'm always an introvert. I'm always going to be an introvert, but it was really weird for me to like feel this need to be around people and like want to connect with people. So that was pretty cool that we found our church, and like it's just so weird. Like it's just so crazy.
Yeah. And I think what's cool is that 2019 brought people back from my past that are helping with my future.
Yeah, that are healthy people
that
too.
Are healthy.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see God be like, okay, like these people are bringing them back, and this is why, because they're gonna help direct you.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna help restore certain things back to your soul. They're gonna remind you of how I created you to be. Like, so it was really cool to see like God use the people from my school or use people from my past to kind of push me into push me into finding where we found Antioch.
Yeah.
Like Narelle, for example, like God brought me and Narelle back together in 2019. Like he restored our friendship in 2019, and it was through Narelle that we found Antioch.
Yeah.
And so like it was cool to see God be like, okay, like I'm going to bring this individual and they're going to help walk through a really tough season in your life, and they're going to introduce you to something new.
Yeah.
And it's going to be exactly what you need at the right time.
I mean, it was perfect.
The first service, like exactly what we were talking about and what we were feeling, because I remember we were like, what like, what happens if the church starts acting like the church?
Yep.
And the first time we walk through the doors, his title series is What Happens If the Church Starts Acting Like the Church? And he's like, we're walking through the book of Acts. And we like looked at each other. We were like,
and we were like going through Acts and
we
like
were going through Acts,
craving that, like, not, I wouldn't say experience, but that realness, that reality of like living like that as a Christian. Yeah. And we found it. It's like, what?
Yeah, like great theology, amazing people that are so funny and down to earth, and like funny. They make you feel like you're a part of like a family, and it's it's great. It's not intimidating where you're like, oh, this is too much. Nope. It's like the perfect balance, and like that's what we were looking for.
Yeah. And I think that was another thing, is like trusting people. Right. I really had, starting 2019, I had very bad trust problems on all spectrums of human beings. Like, it didn't matter if it was just like church, it was just all people. Right. And like now I like those, it's so weird. Like, I understand like healing now, like emotional healing, because those fears aren't even speaking anymore. Right. And that's like something that I never thought would happen. I thought, oh, it's just something I'm always going to have to like, you know, struggle with and like manage. You know how people say like, I just need to manage this. And that's not the truth at all. Like, I have found so much freedom and healing from people. Right. But I think that it happened because of me forgiving the people that really wrecked me. Right. And being able to have like just honest conversation with them. And I think that really helped.
Yeah. I think like if you're listening to this and you're someone that has been through like really, really traumatic events in your past, and you're saying like, I don't think I'd be able to ever forgive these people, just give yourself time. Yep. Right. Because we all think that just individually we've walked through very traumatic events, and we both thought like, I'd never be able to forgive these people ever. And I think when the Lord begins to move on your heart in that area, when it's time. Right. And I think that's something that's like, that I've learned, is that when it's time, God will move in that area. Yep. Because a lot of the times what was happening was a lot of people wanted me to be okay in that area of my life when I wasn't ready to be okay there. Right. And so I think that if you're in that place where you're like, I'm not ready to forgive, that's okay. And just know that eventually, like, the Lord will touch that.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like your timing and holding grudges. Like you're holding a grudge when you come to a place and an understanding where you're like, I could forgive that person, but I'm not going to. Right. But it's different what you're talking about. Yeah, like, I'm just not ready yet.
Yeah. There's like a certain, like, maybe one day I will be ready. Yeah. Right. Or like, there's a certain mentality of like, God, like I would like a willingness on our end. Like, God, I want to forgive them. I just don't have the ability to do it now. Yeah. Like, I'm still so hurt, and it's still so hard for me to touch that area. But I know eventually, by your power, by your Holy Spirit, I will be able to be there. Yep. And so like, I think if we're open to allowing God to heal our hearts so that we can forgive, you will be able to say like, genuinely, like, I release that person, I forgive them. Like, the way that I think about it, and I taught this at Bethesda, is that like, when you release someone of their debt, right? If a bank says to you, I release you of your debt, you no longer have to pay for that loan, for that debt. Like, it's done, it's covered. And so that's what forgiveness is that I no longer make that person pay for what they did to me, no matter how bad it is. Yeah. Right. And so I've been through abuse. I've been through sexual assault. I've been through so many things where I've had to face those things and say, and make a choice. And there were moments where I'm like, no, I don't forgive that person, and I'm not ready. Right. I've been through manipulation. I've been through emotional abuse, physical, all those things, and like traumatic, very traumatic, and not ready. right?
Yeah.
Literally, like, no, I'm not ready to forgive that person. But there have been moments, whether it's in my alone time with the Lord, or whether it's in church or a sermon or whatever it is, that I'm like, that the Lord will move on my heart, and I'd be like, okay, Lord, like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And therapy and counsel and speaking with my mentors and speaking with people, like, our friendship has been a place where I was able to face a lot of traumatic things, work through it and heal, and be able to say, well, now I forgive that individual. And so it's been cool to see God move in forgiveness and teach what true forgiveness looks like, and say, it's okay that right now you're not ready, but eventually you're going to need to be ready. And I'm going to touch on that area if you're willing, and it's going to be easier to forgive. It's no longer going to be something that's as heavy and as traumatic. Trauma is trauma, right? There are still moments where I'm highly triggered by certain things, and it's not that I'm not healed from it, and it's not that I haven't forgiven that person. And we're going to do a mental health thing, because I think the church teaches us that if there's a mental health then issue there, then it's
Something's
a spiritual
wrong with you,
thing. It's a demon, and sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's a hormonal imbalance. Sometimes there's different factors that play into it. And I think the church needs to do a better job at learning about mental health and how to go about it in a different way.
Right.
That's actually one of the most requested topics that we've gotten on here, and we're going to talk about it. We're just still doing our research a little bit about it, so that we kind of give you guys like a proper background. But I'll tell you this, is that as a pastor who's had to live through trauma, it is a hard thing to work through. And I think that there's grace, and the Lord knows, and our brain is actually like more delicate than we know.
Right.
And I'm learning about it now in my training as a teacher, like how delicate the mind is as young as 2 years old, how delicate and how easy it is for trauma to be introduced in the mind. It starts as young as 2. And so if you have walked through traumatic events and you're not ready to forgive, it's okay. But just know that one day you will be able to forgive. There is hope.
There really is.
And you will get there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've learned in 2019, one, by watching like your life, Liz, and watching you kind of work through a lot of trauma, and two, like, again, if you need to go through therapy, I am an advocate for it.
I think one of the things that I'm really proud of you for this year is like, you genuinely, I'm trying to think of like the words to put it, but like, I guess since we're still on the topic of forgiving, is like you reached out to your family, and you really put a lot of your hurt aside, not neglecting your feelings, but like, and not allowing people to step on you, but you genuinely like surrendering that and just loving them again. And I know that was like really, really hard for you, especially with some of the family members in your family. And I just wanted to celebrate that, because I know how hard that is, and still is for you to do. Like to even be in the room with the same room as some of those people is like, it's just amazing to see how much you've grown. Yeah.
Again, like, there are moments where I'm still triggered, but it's not as bad, and there's no hurt, if that makes sense. Like, there will be an event that I'm like, ooh, like, or a response that I'm like, oop, I don't like that. And I think part of learning yourself is learning your boundaries, learning, especially if you've walked through trauma, if you've been through traumatic events, learning like, okay, this is as much as I can handle. This is as much, and I'm honest, and being honest, and being like I've told you, like, okay, I don't want to do this, because it's very hard for me to go to that space, to go to that place again. Like, there are certain places that trigger me, right? And I said it to you like this, like it's, the trigger isn't bad, it's how we deal with the trigger, right? So like, New York City, for example, triggers me. And there's certain reason why it triggers me. And but what am I gonna never go to New York City? No, that's foolish, right? Like, I learned to be like, okay, this is hard for me. But it's okay, and I'm okay, and there's no harm being done to me, and it's just a bad event that happened. But I'm gonna create new memories here, so the bad event isn't as heavy. What I remember now about New York City is good things. The bad things still happen. I don't ignore it, but I don't allow it to affect my life where I can no longer enjoy a certain place. Right. So it's the same thing like with my family. There's been a lot of bad events. There's been a lot of hurt. There's been a lot of things said on both ends. Right. But you choose to say, okay, I'm sorry. I forgive you. Let's move on. I might be triggered by certain things or certain people or certain sayings, right? It happened at an event. Someone said something and I'm like, tough for me, but I'm not going to allow it to affect me where I'm shut down. Right now I don't want anything to do with you. Now I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm done. Instead, I'm going to say, okay, I don't like that. I'm going to be honest that I don't like that, which I've expressed it, like being able to express it. And we move on, we move forward. Please don't do that again. Right. Learning to put up boundaries in those places. So that's kind of like what I've walked through in 2019, like learning to place boundaries on people, learning to say, okay, this is where you can speak into my life. This is where I don't want you speaking into my life. Like, and not in a place of like, you have this right, you don't have this right. Like, I'm afraid of being hurt. It's just more so of like, it's a honoring myself. And it's an honoring of the individual and saying like, I'm not going to give you room to speak into this area because you don't have a right here. And I think like if we can learn to do that with people, being able to say, okay, this is my boundary, right? This is my line. Please honor that line. And if they don't honor that line, then you make that decision of whether or not that person stays in your life. But 2019, I think, was a big place of me learning, like, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, this is my boundary. It's okay to say, I don't want to do that. It's okay to say those things because you are honoring yourself by doing that. Really beautiful. That's what I've learned, like in the process of forgiving family members, learning to place boundaries. In the process of forgiving friends that have hurt me, learning to place boundaries. In the process of forgiving past church leaders, learning to place boundaries on people and learning to place boundaries in circumstances and knowing what I can handle and what I can't. In the process of healing. Because there's still some things that I'm healing from. It's true. Even with church stuff, there's some things that I'm like, ooh.
I know. So there was a few churches that we went to that triggered me so bad that I had to
leave.
I didn't just walk out. I ran out because it was like I was there again. And it was really, really hard for me.
Right.
So I will say I still have, like, if I go to a very expressive church, I have a very, very hard time. Right. So that's still something that I know I have to work on, and I still have going on in my head. But yeah.
So 2019 was a year of forgiving, a year of rebuilding,
unlearning,
a year of 2019 was a year of really like honing in on who we are as people, like our character, our getting healthy mentally, physically, because
treating people better,
like watching what we eat, like really like taking care of, because we're triune people, right? We're body, soul, spirit. So really taking care of our spirit, like really taking care of our bodies, really taking care of our souls, our emotions, and our mind. And I think that's like one of the biggest lessons I've learned in 2019 is that we're triune. There's three parts to us. Right?
They're all connected.
We're all connected. So a lot of the times it's like, okay, I'm good spiritually, but our bodies are a wreck, right? And our emotions are all over the place. But we're good spiritually. And so that means that I'm good all over. Like, no. Like,
No.
you need to take care of your spirit, man.
If you're lacking in one area, it'll affect your entire
everything. Body. Like you said, like we're walking through 1 Corinthians 12 at church, and like where he talks about the body, like, can the hand say to the eye, like, I don't need you, or the eye say to the hand, I don't need you? He said, of course not. And like our pastor broke it down like this, like, if you get an eyelash in your eye, can your other eye take out the eyelash? No, you need your hand.
Yeah.
And so it's like your spirit and your soul and your body are all connected, and it's important to take care of all three. Not saying that you need to be this gym head, obsessive about the gym, because we're gonna talk about the topic of eating disorders and body image and all that stuff.
Because 2019 was a good year, and I worked on a lot of things, but I also had a lot of very unhealthy habits and very unhealthy way of thinking that still kind of like sneak up on me here and there. So eating disorders is definitely going to be a good topic.
Yeah. Like sharing those stories and being honest and talking about working through those things.
Right.
And so like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like if you have a very obsessive personality, like there's a balance and there's healthy ways of going about things and all that stuff. But what I'm saying is that learning to take care of all parts of who you are will benefit you in the long run. A lot of people stop at spirit. A lot of Christians, they stop at my spirit's fine. Like I'm good, you know, because I pray and I read my word and I go to church and I have community. No. There's more to you.
Right.
How's your emotion? How's your mental health and how are you emotionally? Right. Can you process emotion? Right? Can you communicate what you're feeling in a healthy way? If the answer is no, then that's an area that you need to allow either mentors to come alongside you, friends, counselors, like therapists, the word of God. Like there's different things that you can do to help in your emotional state, your soul, right? Do you need to rest? Are you in ministry? And do you need rest?
Yep.
That's important, because how can you lead a bunch of people and you are limping? How? Not saying that you need to be perfect, but I'm saying you need to learn to balance rest and ministry. Learn it, right? We learned this in 2019. We lead out of a place of rest. If you are burnt out, and I said this to you, there's a pastor that I know, he's tired. He is tired and his congregation is suffering, and they've come up like, we're suffering. And so that's something that we're trying to work through with him. Like, how can we help this man? How can we come alongside him? How can we support him? Because he's exhausted. It's recognizing that, because people that are watching you will feel what you're feeling. You're the leader of that work, right? Yeah. So are you burnt out? Learning those things, right? Where are you in your body? Are you eating unhealthy? Because that'll affect your health. That'll affect
affects the chemicals in your brain, which affects your emotions, which then affects your spiritual life. Yeah,
it affects you in all areas. Like, take care of yourself. Yeah. So me and Sammy, we went to the gym, like, we were going to the gym. We were really holding each other accountable, like really like, okay, we're going to take care of our bodies this year.
Yeah, I think another thing is that we really wanted to hold each other accountable.
Right.
Rather than just like being like, okay, like it's like, no, if you're doing something that's not okay and I see that you're doing that, I'm going to call you out.
Right.
And if you get offended, that's fine. Have your little pity party for like 10, 15, 20 minutes.
We're gonna work
and
through
then
it.
we'll talk about it.
We'll work through it. Yeah.
Like we don't do that anymore. I think that's another thing is we face our fears. We face things that we're afraid of. Which is your fears. Good job, Liz. No, just like face things that you don't want to do and face the frustrating things and face the like humbling yourself and face the fact that you're wrong. Like just face it.
Yeah, face it, learn from it and grow from it. And it's not like this harshness, because sometimes like that can come off as harsh, like face it and get over it. Like no, that's not it. Like feel what you're feeling. I'm an advocate of it. Okay, what are you feeling? But then I say this, but don't be led by it. Right? Be honest about what you're feeling, but you don't make decisions because you feel this way. Right? The Bible is big on that, right? I'm not led by my feeling. I'm led by what the Spirit of God says. So I'm not going to be led because I'm angry and I hate people people. I'm not going to let that lead my life. I'm going to be honest. I'm angry and I hate people and they hurt me. But you know what? I want to change that. So I'm going to allow God to fix that, or I'm going to talk it through, or I'm going to cry it through, or I'm not going to talk it through. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to just be silent. Whatever, however you process it, and don't make decisions in that space. Right. And then once you're out of that headspace and you have a different perspective, that's the other thing we learned is, what is your perspective?
Yeah, changing
your perspective. Are you too close to the situation?
Yep.
Right? Do you need an outsider in to give you perspective on what is actually going on? We actually worked through that with somebody before the year ended. Had an outsider come in and be like, this is what we see and this is what's really going on. And the individual was like, I was way too close to the situation to see that.
Yeah.
Right? So getting a different perspective, getting a third party in to be like, this is what's really going on. Right? So that's what we also learned, is perspective. And how can you take care of your mind, body, and your soul, your spirit, and your body? Like, how can you do that? And like, what's good for you? What's a great balance? Right? Balance of community, balance of a healthy mind, balance of work, balance of play, right? Rest. Like, learning to balance is big.
Yeah.
Right?
We learned a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of like life lessons, like really tough lessons.
We matured. We grew up.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
But in the mistakes, like learning, like love knows how far to push without crushing you.
Right.
I said this, I think, in the other, like the podcast with your mom. Like, love knows like how far to push you out of your comfort zone without it killing you.
Yeah.
Right. And like trusting in yourself. Like, sometimes we don't trust ourselves. Like, we feel like, you know, like that gut feeling, quote unquote gut feeling, and we're like, well, I don't know if I trust that. But learning to trust that gut feeling, like, oh no, I was right about that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, learning yourself, learning how you work.
Yeah. Right?
Men and women. Learning how you work, learning how your friends work.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you're in a relationship, learn how your partner communicates. I say it like this: there's really big different communication styles, and if you don't know how the other individual communicates, then you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
Like, there's like literal communications, and I forget the other one. What was the second one? Figurative. Yeah. So like, if you're a literal communicator, which I am a literal communicator, if you say to me always, like, Steph, I always go to the gym.
I'm a figurative.
You're figurative, yeah. Like, to a literal person, when you say things like this, like this happened before with a figurative person, and I'm a literal speaker, and they said, Steph always does this, and I'm like, no, I don't always do that. And they're like, well, that's not what I meant, and I'm like, but it's what you said. Like, I literally take you literal. Like, if you tell me always, that means every second of the day I'm always doing that.
Yeah.
You got what I'm saying? And they're like, no, I meant like just once in a while. I'm like, but you said the word always.
Yeah.
So like a figurative person, like they can say things like, well, we're going to work on the backyard all day. A literal person literally thinks like, when I wake up in the morning to when I go to sleep all day, I'm working in the backyard. Where a figurative communicator is like, no, I meant like once in a while throughout the day. And it's like, if you don't know that the person's a figurative speaker and I'm a literal speaker, so that's one of the things that we learned in 2019, because you're figurative and I'm literal. So you'll say something and I'm like, no, but you said this. And I found myself doing that, like a lot of meetings where like people were like, well, I didn't mean it that way. And I'm like, but you said it. And I literally took you literal. So it's hard if you don't know that about yourself. So learning communication styles will help relationships, will help you ease a lot of pain, will help avoid a lot of arguments, right? It'll help in a long run. So that's what I learned in 2019, is like learning how people communicate, like learning to read body language, right? I say that all the time, where I'm like, you're saying this, but your body language is communicating something different, right? Like learning those things. One, as a minister, it will help you tremendously if you learn different communication styles, if you learn different personality types, if you learn body language, if you learn those things, it'll help you so much as a pastor, as a minister. It'll help you when you're counseling people. It'll help you walk through things with people. It'll help in such a big way. So I learned that so much in 2019, like tools that'll help me build in 2020.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of tools.
A lot of tools. Yeah, 2019 was filled with like filling up my toolbox.
Yeah.
To build my future for 2020 and on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to for 2020? Like, what is something that like we can expect from you in 2020 that you're like, this is like,
well, I said this in the podcast that I talked about growing up in the music industry. 2020, I'm definitely releasing my music. I wrote all my stuff in 2019.
Nice.
And then 2020, I'm releasing all of it. Well, not every single, maybe, I don't know. And then I definitely want to have like, I don't know if I want to have like an EP release or I don't know, like I have a show. I definitely want to do something like that. But I'm just really focusing on my music ministry. That's my main focus, is my main goal of the year, is to just really focus on that and getting connected at the church and like serving. Yeah. Getting really involved there. I want to do that.
So 2020, I think the goal or what you guys can expect from me in 2020 is I really want to put my story out there more.
Okay. Wow.
Like I really want people to know who I am and what I've walked through and what I've come from. And I think I also want to start building Bethesda. Like I guess in 2019 we mapped out Bethesda, but I think like building it and start putting things in place so that we can eventually open the doors of Bethesda into what it's created to be. I think that's what I want to start doing in 2020, like putting the people in place, like getting the grants that we need and getting the direction and the support that we need, like really start building the skeleton of Bethesda. I think I want to do. And yeah, I think that's like, those are the really two main things that I'm focusing on in 2020 is really building those two things.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So excited to see that.
Yeah. So happy first day of 2020, second day, because this is released tomorrow. Yeah, we're recording
Thursday.
Recording it today. Yeah. So happy second day of 2020.
Yes, guys.
Yeah, we want to hear more from you guys. You guys have been sending in topics, which is awesome.
Yeah, we promise
we'll get to them in this new year. And yeah, I'm excited to hear from your music, like for people to hear your music.
I'm actually, at first I was like really scared. I was really nervous, but I'm like really excited. I'm confident.
Good. Yeah. Yes. I'm so excited. Yes, I'm really, really happy. I can't wait to just see things unfold in 2020. And I can't wait to see, like, you guys share your goals with us. We want to hear what your goals are.
And what you guys learned in 2019.
Yeah. We want to hear from you. And we really want to learn what you guys have learned and kind of take tools from what you've learned in 2019 and what you've experienced. That would be really cool to kind of hear. So comment below and make sure you guys share this video or this audio. Video audio thing on YouTube, and we also were on Apple Podcasts, so you can look us up there.
Make sure you like and you subscribe, because that helps us out a lot.
It does really help us out a lot. And let us know what you think, and if you have any more topics that you guys want to hear, let us know. We really want to kind of talk to you guys about our stories, hear your stories, and stuff like that. So yeah,
happy 2020.
Happy 2020. Love you guys.
Bye.